Update 2.208 has recently come out, and there's some really huge changes for platformer mode. The first one is that show hitboxes on death is now an in-game setting. This is especially significant as previously it was determined using the mod on levels where you have to memorize a room layout before it disappears, such as in Portals of Memory and Unalive the Lights, was deemed illegal. Having instant visual feedback upon death, rather than scanning over the room to view your death point again, significantly nerfs these levels. The other huge change is that practice mode in platformers is now fixed. Respawning at your last practice checkpoint now saves your horizontal momentum from when you place said checkpoint. Previously, your velocity getting cancelled was a major issue for levels like Stormfront, where you keep building up your momentum from clicking dash orbs and sliding on ice, allowing you to clear huge gaps. Even though this level had a practice mode where upon exiting it let you respawn at the last checkpoint, it was virtually useless, as there was very few places where you were expected to have zero horizontal momentum. As a result of this, some dash orb checkpoints where you're constantly moving were literally impossible to split up into any run you wanted without a mod. The other benefit to this change is that autoscrollers and speedrun levels are much more consistent to practice. After each respawn, you'd have to spend extra time accelerating back to max speed, and over the course of a practice run, all the time lost from each checkpoint really adds up. This leads to either the camera catching up to you or the timer running out, forcing you to backtrack several checkpoints, which is really annoying. The last couple of platformer changes we have is that there's now a moon leaderboard in-game. Just ignore the fact that the top 100 isn't actually accurate and has a guy who won't admit he's a furry on the top. And finally, the death animation is no longer included in your completion time for platformer levels, which is frankly just a weird change. Well, that would be the final thing if a few days later Robtop didn't drop another patch, this time removing X and Y coordinates from show info label. Top players heavily relied on starting from a specific pixel to make some jumps more, if not 100% consistent. This is especially significant for levels such as RAGE, where practically a tenth of the jumps previously involved walking to the right X position, then simply holding down the next few inputs. However, any levels or copies you may access through the Create tab still show coordinates while info label is active, meaning that verifiers will inherently have an unfair advantage over anyone who wants to be a future victor of the same level. This is a huge issue that really needs to be fixed. The other major change this patch brought was giving leaderboard mods the same voting influence over demon ratings as regular mods. Also, good news everyone! We finally got our third annual update from Robtop that he is working on platformer saves. Whippy37 has finished hosting their second Lunar Jam, where upon revealing a theme, participants would have 72 hours to make a level. This jam's theme was Power, and taking home the bronze medal is Wireframe by GHHH. Starting out, the level introduces this custom orb, where upon clicking it, you turn into a spark that travels through some wires, which you can also click out of at any time. The first checkpoint then expands upon the mechanic, making you jump from wire to wire, sometimes propelling yourself out with dash orbs. Next, it introduces these impact orbs that remove various obstacles, and the fact that you keep the same gravity before and after turning into a spark. This allows for a few setups where you have to carefully think before jumping in and out of the wires. Otherwise, you'll fall towards your demise. After one last checkpoint with a few impact orbs and a satisfying orb chain is the sky portion of the level, which tests your mastery of the mechanic. Starting out, the level flips the benefits from the impact orbs on its head, as they are now directly on the wires, forcing you to fall down upon clicking them. The final checkpoint adds one last twist, where multiple wires overlap each other, allowing you to switch paths mid-current. Taking home the silver medal is the multi-stage level Geometry Workshop. In each stage, you're given an unfinished build you can fly around and add objects to. However, each object takes up some energy, so you'll have to carefully plan your route. After finishing your build, you'll have to verify your creation in classic mode before moving on to the next stage. Later on, you'll unlock more items that greatly expand your freedom of movement, such as gravity portals and dash orbs. However, these come at the cost of using even more power. After completing each stage, you'll receive a rank based on how much remaining energy you have left and how many gold coins you were able to collect. Taking home the gold medal is Carnelon by Azurian, Awozi, and Eki. Upon entering the level, you'll click a yellow orb and quickly realize after doing so it attaches to you. Once you're carrying the orb and click again, you'll throw it forwards, meaning to get over this wall, you'll have to rebound and then catch the orb off of it. In the next room, you'll run into an issue where you can't carry the orb through this one block tunnel. Instead, you'll have to throw it through these electric fences that only damage the player. Finally, the level introduces these magnets that pull the orb towards them, and these gray platforms that only affect the orb. The level then has a series of mini puzzles to help you get more comfortable with its mechanics, such as the one where you throw your orb at the side of this magnet before retrieving it. Upon reaching the second half, the level introduces moving platforms that power on whenever the orb or a player carrying it is on them, allowing the level to now throw harder puzzles at you. This level also has some really well-made coins. You find the third one through first descending a vertical tunnel by constantly ricocheting the orb off the walls, while weaving around these electric fields before solving another puzzle. With NNG's completion of the top 15 mega collab IWannaPlatformerList, Ayumi, the best player of 2024, has finally fallen out of the top 10. Ayumi was so far ahead of his time that after beating only 2 levels, those being Dead of Night and the top 1 Delightful Climb in 2025, He stayed within the top 10 by the end of the year. While IWannaPlatformerList features tons of rooms that remix levels that have been done on the platformer list, the hardest one by far is the DSTRD room, as you'll have to collect 5 diamonds under a strict time limit. However, since the ball has less friction than the robot, it's a lot easier to accidentally slide into several spikes, especially when speedrunning. If that wasn't all, the final dropdown of the room requires you to move left to dodge a sideways spike before immediately turning around to squeeze through a nearly pixel-perfect gap. The second hardest room for NNG was Tubeside Mayhem, which also has no brakes as you're constantly jumping from slide to slide. Congrats to NNG for knocking Ayumi out of the top 10 platformer rank spot. The other notable completion this week is woolypig becoming the first victor of the projected top 10 waking up again. Thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe as we're so close to 2,000 subs, and of course shoutouts to our channel members.